Streaming. Good morning. Use the clay bar for the first time on a back window. Nice. How'd you like it? Why was that in there? Also these. Let's take these and put them there. It was okay. Didn't go through that during the class, but I feel like it left residue. Some of the clay bars can, so you have to leave the back window like wet, because some of them are really soft. So if the glass was a little warm, or it hit a dry spot, you don't have to go through it like super thoroughly. Clay bars are kind of optional. Let's let that fill up. These are dirty felt seals, so I definitely want to tape these ones. It's an f150 though. F150 means that it's easier. And then we got some Ford mirror stuff to talk about. I already made a post in my Facebook group kind of breaking down the two different types of mirrors. This one has the pain in the butt mirror, but I was able to get this one to remove. See? Tape that up, and now instead of having to deal with all this crud down here, it's like a brand new seal. That's why we tape. And that's mostly full. Take the last ounce out of this one. Ooh, we got almost another ounce out of that one. Can you cover the lower wave cut a bit more? Yeah, that's actually a good one too. Let me see what size rolls I got available. Oh, that just fell in there. That's fine. Another ounce. Finish off that ounce. Shake, shake. Fill that with some air. Cool. And then, yeah, Ford mirrors. Since some people are here, let's just break these down really quick. You have this one. This is the easy one to remove. This is the pain in the butt one. You can tell it's a pain in the butt because of the way it is. It's squared off at the bottom. Biggest visual indicator here. It has a spring clip, and that spring clip has these little teeth that will hook onto the tab and be very difficult to remove this one. So I have two tools. This one was recommended to me. It's a little clip plier, and it can wedge right in here. Let me turn this around and compress that clip if you get it in the right spot. See, it'll kind of hook in there. So it's one of the few tools that'll kind of fit in there and not touch the glass, and then you'll be able to pry it off. This is another thing. It's a specialty made epoxy. It's called the Glass Slipper or something like that by MRF Tools. I don't understand why it's got this little notch here at the front. To me, that makes it not fit on most of these that I've encountered. But I was able to get this one to work today. And so it's got this little nut. You slide it in here, compress that down, and then you're able to then pull this off of the tab. For this style, this is the easy style. I'm not gonna put it on completely, but very easy, and I've had 100% success rate with this. You take a pick tool or a flathead screwdriver, and then you literally pry it against the tab. You're not exerting any pressure on the glass, but you pry it against the tab, and then it'll slide forward and come off. If you're gonna put these back on, don't just crank on these mirrors. Don't just try and wedge it back on, because that metal has a tendency to still catch. So this is an equalizer product. This will slot over the tab, right like that. And then it'll put pressure here, so it's literally a little like clamp, and you can get it to slot back on the tabs very easily without putting pressure here. Because if it pops out, this little ball joint pops out, you're not gonna get that back in, and you're buying them a new mirror. So those are the two different styles. That's the only ways that I'll attack them. If I can't get that mirror off, then I'm just gonna splice it, and that's just gonna be how it is. Do you sell these? No, I sell literally none of that stuff. Which tool? The green one, this one. You can give a quick rundown. This was by MFR Tools. This, oh my God. We gotta turn off the air. And the monetization, let's turn that off too. These are little like clip pliers. So this is like a really infrequent situation, and either one of these, I've had mixed success rates. So this thing's awesome, and you can pick it up on Amazon for like 40 bucks. This is by Equalizer, so I always use this to reapply. But getting this squared off mirror, I've had mixed results. So I always like to attempt it, but I'm not gonna do it in a way that's gonna put any excessive pressure on the glass. So if I get it to remove, awesome. If I don't, that's okay. I'll splice it, and that's that. Is there a way to make them the same size? What do you mean? Why do I have two big fingers on the windshield when I'm trying to shrink and a bunch of smaller ones? Typically, you're gonna have like a lot of curve in the top corners. So when we talk about windshields today, because we're gonna do this windshield, I'll go over that in a little bit more detail. You can split up some fingers and you can manage all that stuff. Oh, I see. Hang on, I got the tape a little too far tucked in here, or in the wrong spot. I didn't slot it in there. I wrapped it around the other spot. So let me grab a new piece and we'll redo that. What do you mean by splice? So if I can't remove the mirror, I'm literally gonna cut a seam from the tab straight up and then fit the tint around that. Pain in the butt. I don't like doing that. But if you can't get the mirror off, you have no other way. I got my products, but not the t-shirt. Did you ship them separate? Did you let us know what t-shirt size and everything while we were streaming? Or leave a note? If not, just shoot us an email with your order number, and we'll get one out to you. It was really chaotic that day, so we weren't trying to miss anybody. But I think a few got missed. Extra large for Kevin. You missed Kevin? I remember you, Kevin. I remember that one. Yeah, wasn't there a movie forgetting about Kevin? All right, let's go ahead and tape the other side. We got us. Can you pull up Kevin B's order? Okay. Mine's coming today. Hell yeah. How do you clean those floor tiles? After a few weeks, it smelled. If you don't have floor drains and you have a lot of water sitting and you're constantly spraying more water and more water, then you just have a lot of water sitting. The answer is it's not easy. So we'll get some water in here, but we've never had it smell. Not with like baby shampoo, or sorry, not baby shampoo, not with tint slip anyways. Yeah, during one of the streams. Yeah. Yeah, Friday and Saturday. I did like 2 cars on Friday. Is it okay to use Dawn? I wouldn't use anything with degreasers in it. There we go. Let me wipe that off. And then we'll get to cutting these out. Nice. Let's find some tint rolls. Hook up a keg. What's wrong with degreasers? They're just, yeah, hard on the adhesives. It's just nothing that I can recommend. So like if you're asking me if it's safe for window tint, the answer is no. Can people track down film failures directly to degreaser soap? I don't think so. It's one of those things. C2. Let's see what we got. 24-inch roll, 20%. I will take it. And then we're going to do a 50% on the windshield here. So let's grab the Pro Nano 50. All right, 20-inch roll, 24-inch roll, f150. We're gonna start with the flat edge, lining up here. Cut off a piece of film. What? Yeah. Yeah, the board's not gonna work because I have a different setting on, so I can do this. Woo! Flip this around. We'll cut both of these out together. We're using C2 ceramic. I'm gonna take advantage of the flat edge on that 24-inch roll. But on this F-150, we have this S curve. So it's, oh. What happened? There, now it's normal. That's annoying. Let me reset TikTok then. Live. Settings. Do settings. Practice. Practice. And then go live. Let's open this back up. Good. All right, we should be good. If the fog went off and the glue was exposed, would it cause a problem? I don't know. I haven't tried that yet. Okay, F-150 front doors. So we have this S-curve here. How do we handle that? First, let me get rid of some of this excess overlap. I'm going to take advantage of the flat edge on this and line it up mostly right along here. And so all I have to do is cut right up along that curve and I'll get that cut. But I need to shift my pattern back and forth. So if I remember to, looks like that mirror's not gonna move. I'm gonna make this cut here on the left side first. And then I'm gonna shift this over, use that flat edge and kind of guide it. Get a nice healthy overlap there. F-150s, you always have a little bit more wiggle room, like on the inside. So we're gonna go from there, go right about there. If I wanna ensure this isn't gonna move, I'm just gonna tack this here. And then I can make this cut. So it's best to just start in the low point and go up, and then you take away all that tension as you're cutting. And now you have that perfect S-curve cut. Easy peasy. Cut the side edge. So they're a little confusing, but they're really straightforward. Even if you're close on your cut, you don't have to be exact. A lot of this is getting tucked into the lower portion, depending on how much room we have to work with. On this older style, we don't have like a ton of room here, but they're offset. See, this is the outside seal. This is the inside one. So I'm already a 1/4 inch up from where that is. So I'll just drag it down a little bit farther. Oh my God. Look at that. This is just the outside rubber. You just touch it and your hands are dirty. Lovely. So as long as your cuts are in the ballpark, so you have some overlap on the sides, you have some overlap on the bottom. If your cut didn't line up perfectly along that seal, you're dragging it down pretty far anyways, so it doesn't need to be 1-to-1. Roll down that top edge. We need a plastic knife. Let's put a new blade in this thing. I got a muffin here. That's exciting. Is tint slip more slippery than baby shampoo? Yes. It's kind of the point of it. So if you have a light adhesive film that baby shampoo works fine on, tint slip's you're just gonna use far less. Let me grab this stool. Do you need to heat, shrink, pre-cut tint? Yes. All pre-cut does is cuts the pattern. So the machine does exactly what I'm doing right now. It just cuts it for you. You still have to shrink it and weed it. What is in tint slip? I don't know, good stuff. We have a chemical supplier, mixing company, and chemist. And then we would get a sample, and then we would give them feedback. And based on what's safe and feedback, they would take some guesses and like, try this. And it was just a lot of back and forth. So I don't exactly know everything that's in it. There's an MSDS sheet that you can download though. I guess I'll use this. I don't know where my ruler is. I think it's on the other side. That looks lovely. We're going to straighten this out. This works nice. This is a red devil. This is like a painting tool, but I've always had these around. That's like one of the better little straight edges I've used. Almost like that more than a ruler. Why round corners? Because you don't want any sharp points. Sharp points can catch, and then you'll have your pattern peel. So you just always round those out of the way. As an installer in Michigan, can you get in trouble or sued for an accident? That's always a possibility. There's no recorded instances in the state of that ever happening. But that's why there's some, you know, rough guidelines. Like, I wouldn't put 5% on somebody's windshield. You're just asking for additional liability for a couple $100. Doesn't really seem worth it to me. But also, tint is legal in the state of Michigan. If you follow the guidelines. Other states have different restrictions, so always look at those. So we're going to shrink these. Some people are going to say you don't have to. That's fine. I always like to shrink my windows just a little bit anyways. But we have this S-curve, so I'm not going to apply any heat right in this area. I'm just going to do it in 2 spots. I'm going to snap this area right here. So just a little bit of heat pointed right at the bottom edge, get it to curl in. And then down here, a little bit of heat right here, get it to curl inwards. And that's all I'm going to do. Go to this side. Snap that. Snap this. I can't for the life of me snap shrink. So most people tend to put way too much heat, get it way too close, and they're doing it way too high up. you're doing it right here. So that heat gun has a circle. And where's the hot point? The hot point is going to be right here in the center. So if you're taking your heat gun and you're up here, then you're heating this part. So you want that circle to be a semicircle right along the bottom. So the hot point is pointed almost directly on the bottom edge. And it's not very much. You just heat it up a little bit. You stay about 4, 5, 6 inches away, and then you just work the heat back and forth a little bit, and you're just getting this little bit of curl. It's not super aggressive. So most people, they just go way too hot on the heat, a little too hot. Shrink under what you think you would need, and then see if that lays flat. And you got that little bit of spring to it. If not, add just a little bit more. But yeah, people go like super aggressive. All right, now we're going to do some door panel cover. Where might that be? There's my door panel cover. What are your thoughts on Autobahn? They have nice films. People like them. They seem to be doing some really good, growing in a very good way. You just got to determine whether you think that their territory program and buy-in is the right fit for you. But a lot of people, they've got a lot of good support. I was Lumar, I went to Autobahn, and man, what a difference. Nice. Picked some tools off from the site yesterday. Hell yeah, what'd you get? Okay, so I haven't cleaned the inside of this window at all yet. And this F150 has a little bit of age on it, but everything kind of cleans up the same. But first thing that I'm going to check for is how does my soap lay on the glass because the window's a little bit older. See how it's beading right here? I can see a lot of individual water beads. Let me make sure that first my slip solution is all the way through my line. So I'm going to spray this. I mean, that looks plenty soapy. So if I do this and it doesn't sheet evenly, I'd say that's an issue. Potential issue. I'm going to grab a torch, wherever that might be. Where's my torch? There's my torch. Fire! I'm just going to keep this handy. So I want to scrape this because we're going to clean, but then I'm going to use the torch and we're going to make our water sheet a little bit better. So I'll do this patch right here, and you'll see a difference. So if I spray my soap here, I still have this, like, inconsistent beading. Some of it's sheeting, some of it's not. But if I spray it now here, the water, like, clings to the glass, and it doesn't just, like, fall off. Where right above it and all along it, like this area is great, everywhere else, it just beads off. So the window can still be wet. You don't have to hold the flame there for very long. And it's a very clean way of addressing the glass. So with your slip solution, you have the amount of soap that you should use, but even if you add a little bit more and that water still beads off the window and you basically clean the glass, then it's a glass issue, it's not a soap issue. So I'm just gonna make sure I don't have any adhesive there. Wipe off the top edge. And that's all it is. I haven't melted the sides. I haven't burned the plastic. I just touch a flame to it. Now my soap sheets on the glass far better than what it did. Squeegee, top to bottom, overlapping strokes. This is all completely dry now. Then we take a tri-edge, swipe one side, swipe the other, give it a quick flush, and then we coat. Is that chemical release from the burner, or is it just science? It's a little bit of magic. Some say you're burning off a coating, which makes sense. I don't know. I've taken like different chemicals and scrubs, and I just can't get the same effect. So it might be something from the actual like burning of the MAP gas or propane flame hitting the window. But it works. Whatever it's doing, it works. My tint slides like it should, so I'll be able to get this into place. Without too much trouble. That's the idea here. Otherwise, it'll still slide. It just will stick in a lot more little spots. And so I might have the film grab somewhere I don't want it to, and then so you know you're like trying to struggle with it just to get it in place. If I had a heavy criticism of Geo, it's that their glues are so good, they're incredibly tacky. So you don't have a lot of wiggle room with getting a pattern in place on some types of glass. It just wants to grab pretty aggressively. How do you fold the tint without creasing it? A little bit easier on these, but you just roll the tint up, and I'm not trying to press it flat. I'm just trying to fold it past the seal so I can slide it in there. A little bit of practice and a lot of years doing it. Thinking about your class traveling from Miami? Ooh, we're gonna be there. Not for a class, but we're just like, what's there to do down there? Is 30% too dark? I don't think so. I think 30% would be really nice. It's definitely dark. Like, it's gonna look super good, but still be easy enough to see through. I was gonna heat up the outside, but I don't have to. Everything's good. I can roll this up. Does your hose sprayer have soap, or is it only water? No, it definitely has soap. So we're gonna roll this up now. Ta-da! And let's flush out the bottom here. We're at Detroit Tint Studio in Sterling Heights. Pull that liner out. Rinse that off, give it a good refreshing spray. And we're gonna tuck these corners. So this part needs to be flat, and then I'm tucked into that seal, and I just kind of squeak it forward, but I can only squeak it forward so far before this butts against the seal. Then I'm gonna go to this corner, I'm gonna do the same thing. Pull this back, see, and just tuck that in. But then again, oh my God, I can't get the, we have to take this and move it up. So you need to create a little slack. And when you tuck these corners, it kind of does that for you, where it creates a little wave here. And then I'll take my thumb and I'll use that and continue it. And now instead of dragging down against the panel, all my slack is here, so now it's sitting right above the panel. And I go back to one of these corners, start pushing that like in, so like kind of down to keep this edge flat and in. And then I lead with my shank. So anywhere there's a little overlap, you just gotta push that past your seal and free that in. And when you do that, see we're leading, there's a little spot right here. Pull that back, get that to drop in. And then that's how this goes in a lot easier. Use the shank to pull the seal back so that air pressure can go out of the seal instead of ballooning up and pushing other film back up. So when I push this out, I still keep the shank roughly where I'm pushing. It's kind of like a little pressure release. Right like that. And so now we got the majority of things pressed out. We still got a couple little fingers. I'm not going directly to the very bottom. I have another tool that's gonna help me out with that. But I'm going up to it, pressing the majority of that out, and then I'm gonna grab let's grab this one, like a pink tri-edge, or this one, light blue, any color. And then we're gonna push this in the seal, flex this against the window. See that water? And then I'll go right down into the seal there. Come back around this side. So when I sweep these out, I'm far past the seal, so that way I'm getting as much water out as possible. I don't want this to be popping up at me when I'm doing that. So I'm gonna push that back down. I'm just gonna take that, drag it out, right like that. So we should be good. I'm just gonna give it one more firm pass. What if there's a bubble at the corner, like a top corner? We would have taken care of that ahead of time. But you can take these corner tools and they'll reach up into the top corners. You can put extra stuff out. But when we first started, we squeegeed out this whole top area, rolled it up, and then we should not have anything else to press out up there. Let's wipe it off and check it over. How can you take a crease out? You can't. You gotta start over. Then I spend a lot of time fighting the corners with bubbles, and the adhesive feels like it gets compromised. It does. If you're crunching, oh wow, look at that. We basically waxed the seal. Look at all that hair there. It's okay. It's only hurt for a second. Yikes. Why do I tape seals? This is why I tape seals. I just get cleaner results by getting that out of my life. But yeah, if you spend time and a corner gets caught and you're trying to jam it in there, you're right, it is compromised. As soon as it crinkles up and bends. So one thing that you can do is don't cut your bottom edges super far. Some people are tucking their film way too much. So I've got my seal right here. My inner seal is only here. It's about less than a 1/4 inch down from the outside seal. So if I'm out here cutting my pattern, and then I know I need to tuck my film, I'm only gonna pull it down a little bit. See where this like wet line is? If I drag my tint all the way down this far, well then I'm trying to tuck so much film past a tight seal, that's just not gonna matter. It's gonna get crunched up. You just don't need to tuck that far down. I'm not saying that's like for sure what's happening, but a lot of people run into cutting their patterns way too wide, tucking way too far down, and then you end up crunching. You crunch the film, and then the whole point of tucking into a seal is so the film doesn't rub against the seal, but if it's all crunched up, then it's gonna peel anyways, and what you did just ruined the patterns. My customers don't wanna pay my prices. I get those too. We get plenty of people that call and we're just too expensive. Tinting for me has always been a grind on that, because what I hate is like, everybody just says that, like every customer just assumes that anybody that is charging any type of amount of money, doesn't matter if it's $100 or if it's $700 or if it's 1,000. Everybody is doing the exact same job with a similar quality film. And so that makes it really hard to stand out. Did you stop your TikTok live? Yeah, but we restarted it. I don't know why. We had a camera issue. It's literally the same feed that comes from here. It gets split, and for whatever reason, it just decided to stop. So we restarted it. Which tape do you use? This is Seal Guard. It's very sticky. But I run into this issue where when panels have a little bit of slickness to them, you gotta have, it's a very aggressive adhesive, and it still needs to be better. I should do that every time I finish a window. The tape with plastic is called panel guard. Do you get contamination back every now and then? Yeah, for sure. There's usually going to be something that you can find, but that something should be like incredibly small. So you can kind of look at the state of the vehicle that you're working on, but glass cleans up very quickly. And so like we tape the side seal. So if we look really close, like there's fuzz here, but I don't see any dirt specks. along the sides, along the bottom. You should get like the impression that it's very, very clean. If you have specks like grouped together, that stands out. If you have a hair, that stands out. If you have a crease, that stands out. You want to avoid things that would stand out, but having like a couple small specks that you have to hunt for to find, that's within a particular like line of acceptability. But if a customer is just that particular, then you're going to have a really hard time even explaining a spec or two. But you don't want to give anybody any reason to think that it's nothing but perfect. Oh yeah, we got to torch this window too. Is it reasonable to have 0 specs every tint job? No. But you have to be okay with a little bit and know that the vast majority of your customers aren't going to notice anything. When you pick up a new car from a dealership, how many issues are wrong with the paint, with panel fitting? Like there's 100 little things that could be that much better about a vehicle when they get a brand new car. But your average person just doesn't see that. Can you show us how to hand cut? We're doing the windshield next, so I'll definitely show on that. We just showed how to hand cut these doors, but the recording will be up on YouTube afterwards. So you can always go back and watch, and we got hundreds of examples of it. I detail. I got into tinting a year ago. I noticed something on almost every vehicle. Yeah, and your average like tint job out in a parking lot is actually not very good. But there's a lot of factors into it. So when you walk around a parking lot and you go like, wow, they're driving around with that, and then you're wondering about a couple little specs, like you are one of the few people that care enough to do a really, really good job. That goes a long way. But it also shows you that your average customer does not notice near as much as what you do. They don't notice, or they just don't care. Or maybe the shop stopped answering their phone calls, but I don't know. Oh my God, I forgot I was going to torch this, right? I even said I was going to torch that. So it is sliding. I actually didn't notice if I needed to or not. But we're doing okay. I got a little bit of sticking. See that? A little bit of sticking going on. But I got it in place enough that we shouldn't have an issue. Yep, we're good. I would have liked to torch it ahead of time, though. I forgot. But that's the difference there. Is there a delivery truck out there? I thought I heard a knock. Could be wrong. Were you a mobile tinter? Yeah, I was mobile for 5 years. So I worked at a shop, and then I was mobile. That's my remote. I got an ear for deliveries. Let me see. I think that's my remote. We're going to find out. Does the torch help it not stick? Yes. You just got to look at the window. If your slip solution just beads off the window, then you have a sticking issue. Yes. Sweet, I can plug this in. So watch. See that? I got one for that. I'm gonna run upstairs and plug it in right when I'm done with this window in celebration. Best tip for tinting outside. Don't. Roll that up. And then a fog machine remote. Yes. They came with them and I never used them because I was determined to hook them up to like YouTube super chats. But I'm just gonna keep the remote in my pocket now. Then it's not gonna be an issue. They'll be on every stream. Tinting outside is definitely not for the weak. There's so many things in place. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about mobile tinting. I have a little different perspective on mobile than I think like when somebody first hears mobile or considers themselves mobile. You can go anywhere and tint potentially anywhere. But the thing is you have travel time and many places are not suitable for tinting and because they all have obstacles in the way of you just getting a job done. It's not that you can't find solutions for them, but they're really hard to solve for. And they all like take time. So going to somebody's house, that means you should market to people that have garages. And a lot of people have crap in their garages. So you should market to people that have big garages with more money, right? I wouldn't just market anywhere. But when you go out to somebody's house and you can't tint in a garage, then you're out in the driveway. You have the sun, you have the rain, you have, if you're in a colder state, you have snow, you have wind. So you can try and bring around a tent. So when I was mobile, I partnered with existing companies that have automotive services. They just don't have a good tinter. And it was my favorite way of doing mobile because they have consistent business. They'll cash out the customers and talk to them about tint. And then you just show up with the film and the tools and you just knock the cars out that they have scheduled for you, and then you leave. You don't have overhead on a building. It was great. So instead of going to somebody and only getting one job, I would go to a shop for a day, and then I would have 4 or 5 jobs. What was your percentage? So it depended on the location and when we set them up. Near the end of when I was mobile, we were 75%, and we had a baseline that they had to hit. So if you go to a tint shop or a company that relies on money from window tint services, you're likely not gonna get that percentage. But if you go to a glass company or an auto accessories company, they're looking to make some extra money, but it's not gonna be their main service. So they can give up some extra margin on it to make their customers happy. But that being said, there's a lot of good places and there's a lot of bad places. So if you're if you walk into one of those places and you work out a deal, it doesn't mean everything's all like sunshine and rainbows. Some of those places you have to teach how to run a proper program because they've never done it before. Or they're just going to schedule something for your base rate when they should have charged 2 or 3 times more, but they don't know. So working with those shops, some of them are really worthwhile and some of them will just waste a lot of your time. All right, so we can, oh, it's glued, that's why. Yay, I got a fog remote. What do you recommend? How do you recommend somebody get into the industry with no knowledge of the space? Watch videos, ask questions. I mean, you're in the right direction. Just watch as many videos as you can. And then you kind of learn as you go. All right, I'm gonna run upstairs. Cool, we got extra remote. But I'm gonna plug this one in. What's a common car that's difficult to tint? Chargers? Chargers, Model 3s. I have a few live streams. I just did both of those. Audis, VWs. Okay, so this is plugged in. Neat, so let's put that there. And then I have to change it to a particular mode. What mode do? CHA. How do I do that again? No, not that. Oh, there we go. CHA. Okay, well. Oh my god, they both work. What's the square foot of the shop? It was 3,400, but now it's like 4,400 or close to that. Oh no, 3,300. It was 33. Now it's like 43. Sick. All the messy wiring. What are you talking about? Yeah, I know. I don't have to worry about the messy wiring anymore. I get to take all that down. I think I can pick the color too. So this one, green. Blue and orange. Oh, sweet. We got green for the studio and I got orange for Geo. Love it. What's the smoke for? To party. It's because we live stream and we're in a warehouse and we want to have fun. Where's the bubble machine? You know, I thought about that. There's flame machines, there's bubble machines. Flames might explode. Bubbles might land on customers' paint, and customers might not like that. So quick dissipating fog is my only option. Foam? Is that going to be the same problem as the bubbles, though? Maybe we can hook up a chiller up there, and then we can have a waterfall of fog come down. Laser show. We could have lasers, but you aren't going to see them unless we shut all the lights off. Cold spark. That was another one. Cold spark would work. Yeah, any type of lighting, we like would have to have the lights basically like trigger to be off to even see it. Oh, what's your rent? $3,400 a month plus utilities. I get water for free though. Starting cost for the shop. It wasn't very expensive. I mean, it's more expensive to just get the space because it's like first month up front, 2 months security deposit. So that was like, I don't know, 7,500 in that neighborhood. Oh, if I miss a question, just re-ask it. We're playing around with fog machines and stuff. But yeah, like 3,400 a month now in rent, plus utilities, plus like my internet bill's like 300 a month. Because I had to have faster internet for streaming. That's how much they're renting apartments where I live. Ouch. That's expensive. That's like a good amount of my profit. Mm-hmm. That's why when you go to a shop, it's not $100 to get your car tinted in most cases. That's because a shop is not free. All the space has ongoing costs. It can be a challenge to find a space. I was very impulsive with this space. So like with everything that's in here now, this space is a lot more expensive, but it didn't start that way. If you go back to 2020 on my live streams, one, I was at a home garage and then I moved here. But dude, I didn't care what was in the shop. I just needed it to exist. Enclosed, and then I can just add to it as I go. The showroom looked scary for the first year. We ended up redoing the floor ourselves. We painted the walls. Later on, we added a loft. But, dude, I would just find a space that you can pull a car into. And you can just, like, get started. Worry about all the aesthetic stuff later. I didn't advertise the way that showroom looked at all. In my opinion, it was like, once a customer's in my showroom, chances are they're not just gonna walk out. So, a little bit sketchy when you walked in, sure, but hopefully everything else was reassuring enough. And that's kind of how I got my start out of this building. A lot of customers don't. Yeah, customers have no idea. Most consumers have absolutely no clue, don't care to know. And that's a challenge about running a business is you can care so much and you can put so much money into everything. And it just completely goes over their head. That's just how business is. For some reason, I always get fingers when I dry shrink with the tape. I don't know why. The tape is raised at the end. After we trim, I'm gonna remove the tape and I'm gonna tighten up the edges. So that would be my first suggestion, always do that. You don't necessarily have to, but I'd recommend doing it. Can you tint a sunroof? Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna spray that. How do you go about telling customers there might be drip marks on the car after you're done? You could always have a guideline sheet at the very beginning. I actually don't mention it at all. And if they ask afterwards, I can say they're welcome to take it through a car wash. We're not set up to be a detail shop. I would love to be able to wash your car. I'm more worried about doing a mediocre job and putting some type of swirls in the paint. So that's why we just don't touch paint. So everything's just kind of as is. I think most people appreciate a car being washed, but I wouldn't just take a towel and wipe off the panels because this has dirt on it. This would be really clean in comparison. I think people would be thrown off by that. They'd just be like, well, why didn't you just wash the car? Everything's got a lot of nuance for it. So I just don't want to be responsible for washing somebody's car and then, you know, then you see like something like this. That was there already. I don't touch the paint. But that's just me personally. I don't think that counts against most shops for actually washing a car. I think that does better. %. Look at how light that is. It's gonna look great on this windshield. Just wait till we get it done. So in order to dry shrink this, I need to let this windshield completely dry first. It's most of the way there. But it takes a few minutes for that to dry. But I wanna make sure that it's dry completely first, and then we'll get started. Let me get my heat gun set up. Right now, my competitor runs all ads. My organic ranking is #1 in the city. Do you think making videos helps? Making videos absolutely helps. Putting content and information out there absolutely helps. Running ads works better. It just does. We get far more leads consistently from running ads than we ever do just from content. And that's coming from 150K TikTok, 300,000 YouTube channel. We have people that will find us from those places. But it's way more from running ads. The quality of customer is really different though. If somebody finds us from our channel, they genuinely care about tint a little bit more. Maybe they had a bad experience somewhere. Maybe they're trying to do some research. They're generally a little bit easier because they're just like, yeah, I just wanted to go to the best shop and I saw your content, couldn't believe that you're within driving distance. And so I decided to come out here. So they're not even thinking about looking anywhere else. They're already sold on coming here. With ads, they'll come across your listing, but they're not sold yet. So you hear a lot more like price questions and just like general questions that you have to be a little bit more salesy about. But yeah, everybody in every area is running ads. Not every area, but you know what I mean? Like any area where there's a handful of shops, people are running ads. You guys like these? So we take a little laser engraver, and then we lightly, look at that. It looks so nice. We just run these all day. Is it better for a tint to look warmer or cooler from the inside? I think somewhere in between. You don't want any color to stand out too much. So if your film is like overly blue, I think that's a problem. If your film's overly brown, that's a problem. That's why I really like C2. We used to use Pro Nano. 20% was fine, 50% was fine, 75% was fine. When you get down to like the 35% for whatever reason was really warm in Pro Nano. Never liked that. And then C2 ceramic got better and we switched to that. Much more consistent on just being like a nice neutral color. Why would somebody put tint on the exterior versus the interior? So there's like an exterior protection film that people are doing now, but all tint, regular tint, goes on the inside. It just gets cut and shaped first before it gets put on the inside. Have you ever wrapped a car? No, not a full car. I've done some like light graphic work, but never a full wrap. What's the best film to practice with? An inexpensive one that shrinks fairly easy. T-View is a good film to practice with. Should we make this a little bit higher? Might want to move up our center point just a smidge. F150 is a windshield that gives enough people issues. So I'm going to try and show these top corners and what most people are doing wrong when they're running into issues. Yeah, this is actually Pro Nano. We have Pro Nano 50 left over that we're going through. Typically C2. So this is a really light film, so it's going to be challenging. It's even challenging for me to see right now. Got to get like the right reflections bouncing off of this. We're using GeoShield. This is their Pro Nano ceramic. Single layer, awesome film. Is this to help prevent chips and cracks? No, this is getting installed on the inside. This is to block a lot of heat and add a little bit of shade. It looks super light. Wait till we get this outside. Okay, top corners. Here's where the base of my finger starts, right here. First, make sure it's flat here in the center. Then you flatten out the side. You want it to anchor here as you're shrinking. You don't want any fingers to just fall out here on the side and start shrinking this. That'll mess it up. Always make sure your sides are flat. Take your heat, point it at the base of the finger. Keep the heat gun moving. And in the beginning, it's going to shrink fairly quickly. If you go in little sections at a time, it's going to make these top corners far easier. But this is kind of a big, chunky finger up here. And we want to make this smaller before we have to shrink too much into this. So, early on, these little waves will start jutting out this side. The finger is so big because there's a lot of curve in this area. So you notice they'll start to bend this way. So these fingers will actually come out this area. As I'm pushing this down, that comes out the side. And then I can lift and just readjust this side edge and make sure that's nice and flat. And then I'm going to continue to shrink up here. If you do this in little stretches, you're going to be able to shrink these fingers a lot easier. What a lot of people have a tendency to do is not shrink these fingers enough. And their goal is to just get the fingers and the air pockets to lay flat. You're actually stretching the film out the side and out the top. So I'm not trying to just brush these air pockets flat. I'm literally shifting the film forward and flattening it out. And then when we get to the side, I'm going to lift this. I'm going to push this out the side. And oh no, I got some fingers here. So I'm going to lift this again. Make sure these fingers are flat. And then I'm going to continue to now shrink. I brush them just perfectly flat, shrink up to about this area here. Go back and forth. Okay, so again, we take these, brush them up, and then out towards the edges. See how it's angled? This is gonna go out this edge. So I'm gonna brush it flat. Looks like we gotta flatten this out a little bit more, right like that. Then I got this little finger, and this finger up here is way less intimidating than it was before. And it's just this over and over. People too much try and take this and bunch it up and force it into one finger up here to shrink it out here. It's just excess material, lay this flat. Once it's shrunk, is shrinking with the torch easier? No, it's faster because it's more heat. It's harder because you're dealing with more heat. So if you can shrink with a heat gun, you can learn how to shrink with a torch. But just starting with a torch is going to throw you off because it's the exact same rules. Fingers need to be vertical. You can't shrink out the sides. And then after your film is settled down to the glass, brush it forward and out the edge. Just stretch it out as flat as you can. See? And then we're done. I didn't do anything overly special. It's just identifying where those curves, like those little swoops, and then you brush those out the edge. We're not shrinking the edge. Think of it like a bed sheet. And you're just trying to, from the center, you're trying to pull it tight over the entire windshield. I never understood the pull and heat. So pulling, you're not really pulling, you're flattening. It took me a long time to understand that too. So I've got a big bunched up finger here. The high point is right in here, but if I pull it, well, now it's flat across this big surface. So instead of shrinking just at this peak, I'm distributing my heat over a wider band. But it's harder to see the shrinking that you're doing, but when you let go, instead of being one big finger, it's now a little bit flatter in here. So most people refer to it as pull shrinking, but you're not really like pulling hard. You're just flattening. So this is a really good example of these waves that I'm talking about right here. See this big wave? This doesn't need to be shrunk. This is pulling this way. So I'm gonna brush this until it disappears. So some people will take this, flatten this out, and continue to try and shrink this. Don't do that. Loosen up your side, brush this as much as you can out the side, and then see where everything lays. See how this finger is so much now more flat, but it was really big before? This is the only remnants of that I had before. So if I want to make sure everything is shrunk and flat on the sides, this is then going to be a bigger finger. So I still have some more to shrink. But I hope that really helps illustrate I'm not looking at these sideways waves and trying to shrink them more. I'm trying to brush them forward and stretch out my film and then see what fingers and loose spots are left, and then I'm going to shrink that. See how much of that is just like coasting out the side? Lay that flat. And now it's just this little finger right here. This is so much flatter. So I can do it again here. There's not as big of a finger here, but you can just tug it, flatten this out, take your heat gun, get it close, but keep it moving. Do that a few passes, and now this is all flat. In the beginning, you gotta trust that you're shrinking it. You're gonna have a hard time noticing how much you are shrinking it. So you tint the outside? No. We'll get there. It's like the #1 question of passerbyers. Tint always goes on the inside, but we have to prep it and shape it and cut it on the outside. Any more questions about top edges? Anything we can help clear up before we are done shrinking this? How do you deal with inspection stickers? I don't have inspection stickers here, so I don't know. Some are paper, some are vinyl. If they're vinyl, you could remove it and reapply it afterwards. If they're paper, I've heard you just have to get new ones printed, or they basically get like carved off the windshield. But yeah, we don't have any inspection stickers here. It's nice. I wonder why they haven't developed outside tint. They're working on it. There's a few companies that are selling it. It's a very hard problem to solve because it's either really expensive or it's less expensive and doesn't last. Right now, it's really expensive and doesn't really last. So a windshield, let me ask you, would you spend at minimum $500 on an exterior film? Or would you rather spend a couple $100s and just tint the inside of it? Oh, and the exterior stuff isn't gonna last. $500 for just the windshield? Yeah, on the low end. So that's an exterior protection film. That's why I'm saying it doesn't make any sense. Is because people would then just rather replace their windshields and then just deal with the issues. Film is film. It's easily damaged. It's hard to make a film that you can mold to a windshield that is as durable as an actual windshield, because you're driving down the road 70 plus miles an hour, shit's hitting it all day. You have your wipers. So wipers are gonna take dirt and literally scrape it against the film. It's just not there. And then it's clarity issues too. I've shot enough windshields with BB guns at this point. Glass is really strong. But a sharp rock at the right angle is really hard to solve for. And keep the price just economical enough for it to make sense. It's kind of like where we're at. Average price for a full 6-window job. So without a windshield, in like our C2 ceramic, $350 for all the sides and rear, $550 with the windshield. So I'm gonna cut on the white line. As somebody who's wrapped about 15 cars, I would redo a windshield myself every 3 months if I could buy. The rolls are gonna be upwards of like $1,000. At least that's what, so I have 2 rolls of Clearplex here. The cheap stuff was $1,500. The more expensive stuff was $2,500. The more expensive one, the only difference was it had a ceramic layer in it. And it looked blurry. But yeah, a roll is going to be very expensive. It's not going to be $200. That's what I'm saying. It's just like so like on your low end, at the time when we did a video, on the low end was like entry level was like $500 retail. Why is clear tint? No, like exterior tint is what we're talking about. This roll right here is $400. The Apex one that I install is $600. Do you double shrink front windshields? So I've always tighten up is what I call it. After you shrink a full windshield or a back window and you trim it out, look at the top and bottom, take a heat gun, run it over the top and bottom because you trimmed away excess. That part of the film was connected and you just cut it off. So chances are you're gonna have a few little wobbles along the very edge. So you just take a heat gun, get it close, flatten that edge out, and you're way less likely to get any type of fingers popping up. Just that much. Just quick. Have you ever tried to snap shrink windshields? I mean, in a way, that's kind of what we're doing. We're just tightening up any possible loose spots there, is all we're doing. Are we still connected on, I feel like YouTube is disconnected, so I'm gonna make sure that's reconnected. All right. In what cases do you hand cut instead of using a plotter? Most of the time I hand cut instead of using a plotter. But that doesn't mean the plotter's not good. I prefer the consistency out of the cuts that I get. So I would rather be sure that the pattern's gonna fit than take a gamble with a plotter cut in most cases. But if I'm trying to tint quickly, then I'll be happy to use a plotter to get me through the day. I can still hand cut quick. But if everything's getting tinted in 20%, then I don't have to reload a roll, swap stuff out, just find the car, print it, and cut out my patterns. Okay, so this is gonna get in my way a little bit. I don't really have a good spot to tuck it. Maybe I can wedge it up here. Oh, I can do that. I'll do that. I just want to be careful. I don't want to yank his headliner down. I need a rope. I got too much space there. Where did we put our ropes? Hey, this'll work. So if we're covering up a dash, water can drip down and run somewhere where you don't want it to go. A towel works really well when you get it tucked in. So chances are that we're not going to have any issues. But my chances of not having any issues get substantially better if when I have space here, I can just also tuck a rope in here too. So doesn't hurt to be safe. But I'll always put in the towel first, and then I'm gonna do a rope. Can we get it? Hey, nice. Sweet. See? So the rope, you don't even hardly see it. It's tucked all the way past the edge, staying out of my way. Coat that. How do I get my vehicle tinted on live? Schedule an appointment. Let us know that you saw the live stream, and we'll make it happen. Yeah, anybody that mentions the live stream, we try and make sure that we stream their vehicles. But it helps to know ahead of time so we can make sure that we put aside that time to do it. I streamed a couple cars, or I did a couple cars yesterday, and I just got them done quick. I was a little streamed out. What's the best way to remove these rearview mirrors on Fords? I just posted a very detailed video in my group. But if you hang out till the end, we're going to reapply this mirror, and I will show you what I used to get it to come off. This is the difficult one, but it's hit or miss. Sometimes you can, sometimes it's not worth it. I was really happy I was able to get this one to remove. I'm just going to say that. A body clip remover? Yes, that's one of the tools that I have. I have this one, and then I also have this guy right here. Both of them, mixed results. But I think it's your best chance at being able to. I had one like a month ago. It was so pinched. I tried for like 20 minutes and threw everything that I had at it, and it just was not happening. But this one, this guy literally came in and he asked, he's like, I'm getting my windshield replaced. Do you want me to leave it out of the truck, have you tint it first, then have it put back in? Like, what's the best way to go about it? And I was like, it's totally fine to have it installed. And then I didn't he said F150, and of course I just didn't look at what year it was. And it was that clip style. Like, son of a bitch, if I don't remove this for this guy, I'm just gonna hate myself. But I was able to get that one off, thankfully. So he just got this windshield replaced. This is an aftermarket. Went to a junkyard for 2 hours and took off 9 successfully 2 years ago. I think that's really smart. Good place to go practice that kind of stuff. You could practice panel pulling there. All that stuff. Okay, there was one more thing I swear I was going to do. Oh, yeah, I'm going to cut out the tab. You guys want to see how I cut out these tabs? I'm not super proud of this, but I'm going to Spider-Man onto this truck, and we're going to trim out this tab. So I can see this one a little bit better, but 1, 2, 3. So I'll stand up here, just sit on the pillar, and then I can get over enough so then I can get at this tab a lot easier. Does anybody else do this? There we go. This. I do that? Nice. Cool. I'm glad I'm not alone on that one. Sometimes I would be put in weird situations. Like, I remember being at a glass shop, and then the customer was like in the back of the shop, and I was doing his truck, and he like knew the owner. So he's just like there talking to him, and I just waited for him to be distracted, and then I jumped up on there and trimmed it out really quick. I just feel weird. There's no damage, but I'd feel weird seeing somebody on my truck trying to trim out a tab or something. It's like, what the fuck is he doing? Real men squat on the windshield. I mean, otherwise I'd just crawl up the hood and try it that way. He's hanging out in chat. Ugh. JC says thank you for the website thing, but I'm sure you saw it. And he's the only one that gets it. I know, right? Dude, that kind of shit goes over everybody's head. It's sad. You make tinting look so easy. So, I've been doing this for like 16 years now. So if there's something that I hoped I could make look easy enough, it'd be tinting. It's repetition. There's hours and hours into what you did not see. I mean, some of it happens on stream. We tint hundreds of vehicles online. But like, holy shit, there's so much time and practice that goes into this. All right, so we are going to reverse roll this. Anybody that's seen this knows the drill. We're gonna roll this up as a poster and unroll it on the inside. I'm just gonna start by wiping off the outside. I'm more concerned about wiping the edges. I'm gonna leave it short of that tab. So I don't wanna pull this past the tab just because any low points and holes has a tendency to get a little dirt. So I'm gonna treat that like I do a regular windshield cutout. Does it make a difference? I feel like it does. Finally got to catch a stream, wanted to thank you. Aw, appreciate that. Your videos made me a great tinter today. Do you know what that deserves? Woo! That deserves some fog, damn it. I forget that I have the remote. It's gonna be the other thing. We need more fog. Let's wipe that off. Peel this corner now. See, I have mixed results on this. There we go. I have more luck using my teeth. Peel that, spray. And then we're going near the tab. Cross over the halfway point though. We're just loosening up the liner, spraying it. Can I rewatch this later? Yeah, absolutely. Recording will be immediately up on the tubes. How do you easily peel off the protective layer? That was a good time for that question. That has never been super easy for me, just with like my fingernail. I eventually got used to doing it more. I typically use my teeth. The only thing I would like to say about GeoShield is how it looks. I think it looks pretty nice. I like how it shrinks. I think the adhesive is too tacky to make installation like dead simple. That's the biggest critique I wish we could fix, but I can understand why they wouldn't want to change their adhesive. It's a very scary thing for a company to change. If you make a change to your adhesive and then it makes it slide better, and then all of a sudden 6 months later, windows start peeling, that was a bad change. Is this a difficult windshield to shrink? I think it's pretty average. It's just knowing how to tackle top corners. Why do you still hand cut? It's a windshield. I 100% hand cut windshields. I've had windshield strips not line up in software enough to still hand cut windshields. How long did you Frankenstein windshields? Yeah, you go back to like 2015, 2016, that's when I started, I think, reverse rolling. Nobody around me that I interacted with reverse rolled windshields. Everybody Frankenstein them, and we just didn't have very many windshields to tint. It got brought up in the state law that tint was going to become legal. Nothing changed, and then everybody started getting their windshields tinted. So thank you, Michigan state law. You single-handedly created the most business in window tint that I ever saw. All right, hang on. I'm in an awkward spot right now. Let me just adjust. There we go. Now I'm sitting on the seat. How long is the wireless distance? Just Wi-Fi. This is RTMP to a receiver. And we're just gonna slowly unroll this. The closer you can get everything in place as you're unrolling, the easier it's gonna be to install. Then I'm gonna use the liner to help peel it. Have you used any other soaps besides J&J? Yeah, I exclusively use Tint Slip. I heard about 7th Gen. I used it for a little bit. It wasn't any better. It's the film you use, so I'll keep saying this over and over. If you have a film that slides nice with baby shampoo, you can keep using baby shampoo. That's perfectly fine. I find GeoShield, and it started with Avery Dennison NR. There is something that was very different from Avery Dennison NR versus NR Pro, and they couldn't tell me what the difference was. I asked reps, and they're just like, it just is different. And it's like, well, why? And they wouldn't say anything. So I would add a lot of baby shampoo, and it wouldn't make the film slide better. And I could give you guys an example with Fusion All-Type and GeoShield. Same thing. I can add a lot of All-Type. I can add a lot of slime. I can add a lot of basically any other soap. But if you go back a couple of years, actually like 2020, in our live streams, there was a live stream that we started experimenting with adding Dawn to baby shampoo, and that made everything slide like crazy, and it was awesome. And then 2 years go by, and GeoShield started having curling issues with some of the newer films that they were making, and they were trying to figure out what the issue was. Why not straight Dawn? Same problem. It was way too sticky. So my soap mix for a long time was in a 3-gallon keg, mind you. It was 3 ounces of baby shampoo, 1 ounce of Dawn, and it was perfect. So good. I had very few sticking issues. It was easy to get. And then I get a phone call from Geo one day. They're trying to figure out these curling issues. They look into what soaps everybody's using. And then they start seeing everybody is using a mix of Dawn or other detergent soaps. So like Ajax or Joy or Dawn or whatever. And they're just kind of like, wait, what? Why? There's like tint soaps that are available. Just use that. And I'm like, they're shitty. They don't work. And so they put out a PSA, use Fusion All-Type, and then I show them video of like, hey, you see how it's literally just sticking and not sliding on the glass? Here, let me add more. You see how it's still sticking and not sliding? Here, let me add more. And then they ended up developing Tint Slip. So they would actually have a slip solution that they can recommend that figures out that issue of the film sliding. Their film adhesives are just really aggressive. They always have been. So if whatever film that you use works fine with baby shampoo, by all means, keep using it. If you find that you're using baby shampoo and you have to add a lot and it still seems like it's sticking, your film just has a really aggressive adhesive, try Tint Slip. I use baby shampoo with Geo. Dude, I tried. I had to add a lot, and I still had a lot of windows that would stick. This is also before I was really aware of, like, the torch for, like, helping. So I could always revisit it and see if that really helps consistently. But just an overall, if I'm not doing anything to the glass one-to-one, Tint Slip just has a lot more kick to it. Dude, I would use till like I had tears from no tears. I could like just feel it in the air. And it's just like, ow, my eyes are burning. I'm using so much soap. My hands are just like, can't even grip the film. There's so much soap. And it would just bind up on the window. And it drove me friggin' crazy. I almost didn't use Geo in the beginning because of how tacky it was. I was like, fuck this film. I did a windshield and one of the car sensors stopped working for the outside mirror. Something got wet that it shouldn't have. So when you're doing windshields, you just have to be really aware of what you're doing. Cover things up extra. So I'm gonna show you how I covered this one. Dash towel and a rope together. But when it comes to mirrors, look for anything that's exposed and cover it up. But water 100% ran somewhere that it shouldn't. Might be a temporary short, might be a permanent oopsie. With windshields, you can never tell for sure until everything dries out. I did one on a 22 MDX. The wipers wouldn't shut off. Stopped after it dried like 2 hours. You got lucky on that one. Nice. Some cars are just more water sensitive than others when it comes to the windshields. So what is okay on an F-150 doesn't mean it's going to be okay on an Audi. Especially if you have to tint the windshield more than once. What's the pad? It's a tri-edge scrub pad. And we got their new black scrubby pads. They're the same. They're just black, so they look cooler with their... They went to one universal color rather than an ugly tan one. How easy is it to get into tinting? It's difficult. It's hard to learn. There's more competition. It depends on how you take to it and where you live. Have you messed around with taillight films? Yeah, I've done it a little bit. I'm not good at it, though. It's way more a vinyl wrapping skill than it ever is a tint skill. Because you're using basically color change vinyl. So if you're good at wrapping cars, you're probably already tinting taillights. But if you're looking to tint taillights, it's just a harder skill to learn because it's such an intricate piece on some vehicles. Geo has a tinted PPF though. Did you get those sliding glass doors custom made? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a glass company across the street do it for us. And then they outsourced it to somebody. If I had known that, I probably would have called somebody else. They had the holes cut, and then they blamed the company for cutting them wrong, when in fact they just ordered the wrong hardware. And it was just like, it just took weeks. It should have been really easy. All right, so we can pull out the rope. Do you wash microfibers? Mm-hmm. I haven't really looked into special microfiber wash, but don't use dryer sheets with microfibers. They'll coat the fibers and they just won't work very well. But we just wash them like we wash anything else. We just take out the dryer sheet and they turn out nice. But I don't know how much nicer they would be with a microfiber wash. It'd probably be pretty nice. All right, so we still got to put the mirror, and we can talk a little bit about the different mirror tools. This isn't a mirror tool. I have 2 different Ford mirrors here. And a razor blade in my mouth still. I probably don't need that either. So, this is how I'm going to put the mirror back on. This is one thing that I tried to take this mirror off. And this was another thing. I have mixed results with both of them, but I'll just run you through what happened with this mirror and the different types. So we have this Ford mirror that's got this flat edge and this really annoying clip. This clip has these teeth, and so it pinches and grabs and is very difficult to figure out the right tool to just like pinch here and slide this off. So people tend to break the windshields before getting these mirrors off. So they've been a big problem. This is the easier style. It's rounded here at the bottom. Super easy to get these off with like minimal risk. So I'm not gonna put this on fully, but I'm gonna give you guys an example. There's a little hole here at the bottom. You put a pick tool or a flathead screwdriver, just something, just a small pry tool, and you pry it against the tab, and then that loosens it from the bottom, and then you just slide it up off the tab. Do not, I repeat, do not take your hand and just pry it off of the tab. They can come off, but I've broken 2 windshields doing that. I've literally ripped chunks of glass out of a windshield and had to buy new ones because I used to do it that way. So for reapplication, oh no, we'll talk about these tools here. So for this clip, you have to compress this spring. And so this, what do we call these things? Like a push pin plier, something like that. It fits in here really, really nicely. It puts a little pressure here, presses on the spring clip, and then you can get that to flex. And get it to flex enough where you then pull this out. This was a custom-made tool, MFR Tools. So if you just Google that, you'll find it. This was a specialty-made epoxy molded thing. I've had mixed results with this thing too. I don't know what this little notch is at the front, but I feel like this notch, I want to grind this off because I feel like this should go on here easier than it does. That seems to kind of like block it. But it's got this little nut here and this plate. So this slots in here, and then you just screw this down, and it holds that down, and then you can just basically like push up on it, and it pops off the mirror. I was able to get the mirror off with this. But I've had another Ford mirror that I tried it on. Dude, I don't know if anything would have taken that Ford mirror off. So I've just had mixed results with both. So take that for what you will. This is a way to put the tabs back on. So it's got this groove up here. Sorry, you can't really see that. It's got this groove up here. This slots in here. And then this plate goes against the tab here. And then you're able to just clamp this back on without having to like muscle this back down. So I'm going to attempt that now. This is how I've put these on. Oh, I bet you I can just literally push this on. It feels loose enough where I can do that. So I don't even know if I want to use this. I don't use this unless I have to. There we go. Oh, yeah. This will go. And then I'm just scared to do it one-handed is all. There we go. Clipped on. Pull this away. The only problem I've ever had with this is that I wasn't paying attention, and this literally scraped up against the tint and carved a chunk out of a focus windshield that I did. And ever since then, I've been very careful. But this tool, this is by Equalizer. So they've got Ford mirror tools. This one I use every time to reapply. You can see how old this one is. I've carried it around forever. So now we can put this back in. I should have put this on before I even put this mirror back in. But here we are. Make sure we got stuff in. And then I'll struggle with this and I'll get this back in. Yeah, it goes like this. Huh? There we go. Yeah, just pop it back off and then... All right, we got it. So yay, tinted Ford windshield with the annoying mirror, and everything's back to normal, and I don't have to screw with it. This mirror I took out of the focus that we have for the class, so this is mine. Snap ring pliers. Is that what they're called? I don't think they're snap ring pliers. Push pin pliers or something like that. It came in a set of like 3. I just don't remember what it was called. But look up stuff to remove push pins, and you'll probably come across it. Cool. Well, that's that. This is wet, so I'm going to grab another one. Any questions about Ford mirrors? Oh, yeah, last thing. If I can't get that mirror off, I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm just going to splice. So I'm going to literally cut a line and go around the mirror. It's not going to turn out quite as nice. It's not going to turn out quite as nice, but you can get it done. Is the 5% off still available? Yes. 5% off of tools. Use the code 313TINT. Or we have a 5% off tools on TikTok shop right now. Can you link the mirror tools? Look up equalizer Ford mirror on like Amazon and you'll find this one. This thing, I think I got the box still. This thing was by MFR Tools. So if you just search MFR Tools or Ford Mirror MFR, you'll find this one. I think this one was like 80 bucks. And then this, I'm trying to remember what these are called. Push pin pliers or something like that. OTC body clip remover tool, 75 bucks. That comes in like a set of 3, right? I remember getting a box with like 3 of them. I found a supplier that makes them in Michigan, and I was gonna have them in our store, but then I tried to use that on a few different Ford mirrors, and dude, I don't know. Some of them it just doesn't seem to work right. So I ended up not buying a bunch of them to sell them, because if I can't get them to work, then like why the fuck am I gonna sell it if like it does work? I don't know, but I've seen videos of people using them, and it seems like it should work. I just haven't gotten there yet. All right, so that's good. I like the floor. Where'd you get it? The floor, thank you. Race deck. That is that. Let's put some tape on the switches. Let's celebrate. Woo! I've never not had one come off with the OTC, but I do spray water and soap solution on the button. That's a good tip too. I just had this, like I don't get very many of these. Most of the Ford mirrors I get now just have a simple screw. But the last one that I tried to remove, it was so tight. I threw both of those things at it, and it just wasn't popping off. I spent like 20 minutes trying to wiggle that thing off. And I was more worried about, like I saw the glass flexing a little bit. I was more worried about breaking the glass than getting a little splice there. So I don't even remember the truck now. So customer never said anything. Job turned out fairly well. It had a splice, so be it. But it is what it is. How much for a 2-door and rear window? 45% ceramic blue. We don't have blue. But the sides and the rear, I don't know, like $3.99 in ceramic on that one. That'd be not good if the windshield broke. Yes. Yeah, with the removal tool. If the windshield breaks, you're in for a bad time. Yeah, what kind of truck? I just don't have colors. Colors are too failure prone. So if you find something and want me to install it, we could install it. But it's kind of like an at your own risk type of thing. The price wouldn't really be any different. This looks good. I like it. This turned out incredibly clean. I think he's going to be super happy with this. All right, dudes. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for hanging out. Any last minute questions? Bob? Key is out. When can I come up to your shop and meet you in real life? I don't see a problem with next week. This week got busy. We can figure out a day next week. That green mirror removal tool, what was the name of it? Here, I'll find the box. MFR Tools. So if you just look up that, you'll find it. It's like a custom epoxy dealie. Okay, cool. Here's the key. Sweet. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you learned stuff. I will see you in the next one.